Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to the review of another NH34 powered micro brand GMT. That's two now. I think I should keep a running tally, don't you? They are everywhere at the moment, but I think that's great. Affordable automatic GMTs for us and an easy new model for small companies, just by changing movements and switching numerals on the bezel. Everyone's a winner. And today it's a new GMT by one of my favourite micro brands, RZE. They've been around for less than 3 years, but they have been fairly pumping out new models. And this new Ascentus sees them dipping into their back catalogue already for a suitable base for a four-hander. Now you saw the pop-up. This video is sponsored by RZE. I will therefore leave a link to the landing page of this one in the description of the video on their website. Now this model launches on the 15th of November. The prices on these, if you sign up with your email address for notifications, is $469 US until the 21st of November, and they're shipping by late November. The production run is almost complete. If you're watching this video before the 21st of November, I think that is a very fair price for a titanium GMT with the specs I'm about to discuss. If you're watching this video after the 21st of November, the price goes up to $549 US. Still reasonable, but obviously $80 more than the early birds. So as always, if you like what you see today, get in early for the best prices. But as always, we first have to determine if it's any good. Let's flip the camera and find out. I've got a great idea. Why don't we start at the outside and work our way in? The packaging for these is actually very nice. Travis, the brand owner, is an industry veteran, and you can just tell. This is the new, slightly smaller, slightly easier to store therefore box, and it's full of prompts to RZE's social media pages, including their YouTube channel, where there's some practical how-to videos if you're having difficulty sizing the bracelet, for example. All really thoughtful, all really personal, and I think all really down to earth. There's a bit of a homely vibe about the brand, which I think is really nice, and I've always liked their aesthetic. I think RZE's watches, to this point anyway, have been clean, uncluttered, legible, and all very wearable, and this Ascentus is no exception. I've been least enthused about the two models they produced with Arabic numerals on the dial. I much prefer these pill-shaped and pill-coloured batons on the watch in the middle, so it's nice to see them back for this GMT. By the way, this is a prototype. All production watches have a date complication at the 3. Travis lost all his date prototypes in transit somewhere. That has to have hurt. And it's nice to see a familiar set of dimensions as well. It's a classic 40-20, so 40mm in diameter, 12.8mm thick. Look, anything under 13 with 200 meters of water resistance and a Seiko movement, I think is doing about as good as you could expect it to. Lug to lug is really short at 46, 20mm lug width as mentioned, and sized up for me, 7-inch wrist. I could actually take one more link out if I wanted to. It weighs in at 103 grams. That is the beauty of titanium. And I've been getting right into titanium watches personally this year. I really enjoy the comparative lack of weight from a Thai watch and the fantastic levels of all-day comfort that the material brings. Grade 2 titanium has been an RZE signature from the very beginning. Their watches designed around the material and colour-toned to complement the colour of the material, which in their case is coated with their proprietary Ultra Hex coating, meaning it's lighter in tone than regular titanium and lighter in weight than stainless steel, but also much more scratch resistant. So this is pretty much an Endeavour GMT. The case is a carryover, but with a slightly deeper case back from what I can tell to accommodate the extra height of the NH34. It features drilled lugs. RZE also sells a bunch of branded straps separately, and it features the same angular looks and really nice angular crown guards. It's a 7mm titanium crown with the RZE logo on it. The coating gives the watch almost a satinized bead blasted look. There's no polish anywhere therefore, and the DLC black bezel contrasts with the case nicely, I think. So the case may be familiar, but the bracelet is brand new. Previously they have used an H-link style. On this watch they're using what they call an hex link style. It's basically a flat Jubilee, has the comfort and flexibility you'd expect from a Jubilee as a consequence of those extra links. Of course, it has solid end links and solid links with screws, and perhaps you caught a flash of that small screwdriver in the test tube when I showed you the packaging earlier on. The clasp is the one part of the watch that isn't titanium, it's stainless steel. You quite often see that though. It cuts costs, it adds durability, and also helps balance out the watch on wrist. It has heaps of micro adjusts, it has a branded fold over and double triggers, meaning it's an easy clasp to live with long term as well. And the case back is only worth about 10 seconds of our time. Borderline sterile, basic spec sheet, nothing to write home about here at all. Seiko NH34 behind it. I think aesthetically these watches are good long-term choices. I've always liked RZE's look. The oblong applied batons, bicoloured at the 12, 3, 6 and 9 are another of their signatures. There's also extra colour with this one because of the GMT fourth hand. The granular dial texture adds a little bit of extra something as well, and they always keep the branding to a minimum. Just the printed R logo and automatic 200 meters, 660 feet, both in white. And they've made several other decisions that keep this one really clean and simple looking. There are no numerals on the dial at all, not for the home time or for the GMT hand. Instead, you're relying on the numerals on the bezel only. And you see how thin that bezel is. Thin bezel means bigger dial and therefore more open space on that dial, more room for everything to breathe. The bezel markings are small but legible because they're white paint filled against that DLC black, with Arabics on the evens and very small arrows pointing towards the pinion representing the odds. 3 of the 4 hands are carryovers. The hour hand is a bit rough on this one, but it is a prototype so I'll let it off. The GMT hand obviously being unique to this watch, and it's a bit different from the norm because they've chosen to paint halfway up the stem. I don't love that, but I don't hate it either, and it does have a rather pleasing effect after dark. In fact, the whole watch is rather pleasing after dark, isn't it? Those bicoloured batons at 12, 3, 6 and 9 come into their own when you turn the lights off. You can see that two-tone effect. You can also see a little bit of extra colour on the printed 5-minute markers. The bezel numerals are pretty bright initially, but when I speed this one up, you can see that the applied indices and hands are where the lume is at its strongest, and it's really pretty strong, BGW9 by the way. And there you are, check the GMT hand, much more noticeable after dark than usual because they took the paint halfway to the pinion. The lume is strong on this one. And it wears really nicely as well. Great size, great weight or lack of weight. The case back's a bit thicker because of the extra long pinion stack, I'm guessing, but it does a reasonable job of nestling into one's wrist. You can see that well in this shot, I think, and a short lug to lug is always welcome. And the new bracelet is thin, but it's comfortable. It does have plenty of flex. I think that encourages this one to be worn loose below the knuckle rather than high above the knuckle as it is here. I'll show you that in a pocket shot a bit later on. Nice end links as well on that bracelet. They're well integrated, nice and smooth into the case. All right, moans and niggles then. My favourite part of the review, and I suspect the favourite part for many of you as well. We're a bad bunch, are we not? Clearly I like this watch, and I'm also a big fan of this watch brand, so there's going to be nothing too devastating here, no killer blows, but I do have a few gripes nonetheless. Well, let's start with the name, Ascentus. It sounds like a committee-generated name because it probably was. I have had a dig at RZE in the past about their masculine and slightly cheesy names like the Resolute, the Endeavour, the Valour, etc, etc. This one isn't in that vein, but it's probably more suited to a real estate development and acquisitions company, for example, or a mortgage underwriting service for banks. Just saying. On wrist, this one is definitely a low and loose for me. The new bracelet is mostly tie and quite slim, whereas the head of the watch is quite angular and chunky. It will bobble around to an extent if you try and wear it high and tight. The easiest way to offset that, therefore, is just to wear it low and loose. I think that's where tie watches should be worn anyway. And I'm sure you've picked it up in the dynamic shots already. Flat sapphire means quite a lot of bounce back at some angles and an obscured view of the dial from others. Not a massive gripe really, more an observation. Likewise, the 120 click dive time bezel betrays this watch's origins as the Endeavour dive watch. Again, not a big deal. It really should have had a bi-directional bezel, but again, not a massive deal. It's not the first time, and I doubt very much it will be the last time I see an NH34 powered micro with a carryover dive style bezel. And the colours, there's a reason why I didn't put this black one on the thumbnail, and it's because I think it is the least interesting of the 4 colours available. RZE's design language is quite subtle. Personally, I think it looks best therefore in a bright, impactful colour. The blue and yellow versions of this Ascentus look fantastic, and the white has the added bonus of being a full lume dial. The black one, for once, would not be my personal choice. And then there's a couple of questions that you have to ask yourself with all of these emerging microbrand NH34 copy and paste reissues. Have you bought an NH34 GMT already this year? And do you already own an RZE Endeavour? Did you buy that one when it came out a couple of years ago? If the answer to both of those questions is no, I think this one makes a really strong case for itself, especially at that early bird price. It is still more expensive than the SSK, but it's so much better spec'd, has better dimensions if you ask me, and whisper it quietly, I think it looks better than the Seiko as well. So there you have it, a new RZE that looks like an old RZE but with an extra hand. If you like it, get in early with your email and go for one of those bright colours. If you don't like it, why not check out the Borealis Seastorm GMT with the same movement, or the Seiko that started the whole giant snowball rolling. Thanks for watching, I'll see you again in a future video, I hope.